First of all, this is a pivotal head coaching hire. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. The initial interviews are happening. If you missed it over the weekend, if you're living under a rock, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN wrote the following about this search. The Kings have secured permission to interview several assistant coaches. I love secured permission for their head coaching job, including Golden State's Mike Brown, Brooklyn consultant Steve Clifford, Milwaukee's Darvin Ham, and Charles Lee, and Boston's Will Hardy, among other candidates whom the Kings don't need permission to interview and are expected to discuss the job with team officials. Mark Jackson, Mike D'Antoni. Kings general manager Monty McNair is expected to expedite the opening of the interview process soon, and the organization will proceed to narrowing a list for follow-up discussions on the job. Here was ESPN's Bobby Marks on how big of a hire this is for the Kings and Monty McNair.
The short tenure of Monty McNair is going to be defined not what he does in the lottery in June or as free agent he signs, but who he hires as the next head coach. The single most important transaction in Sacramento Kings history. I'm not sugarcoating that at all, and I'll probably say this 2 years from now. If it doesn't work out, it's still going to be the most important transaction.
The most important transaction. Lance, your thoughts on the list?
Oh, man. I'm trying to give like a well thought out answer before I just say what's on my mind.
Just go. Just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do good radio here.
Just let it rip.
Introspective. I don't care about the list.
You don't care about the list. Why?
No, because look, man. Okay, if I would have told you last year Willie Green was on the list.
Yes.
Ime Udoka was on the list.
Yes.
You say I don't. It's like these guys. They have to come coach. You got to come coach. So Mike Brown has a history. He's won. He's lost. Mike D'Antoni, he's won. He's lost. Mark Jackson kind of only won, but he lost his job. Darvin Ham's an assistant. He's doing a great job in Milwaukee. He has Giannis like Steve Clifford. He had an okay time in Charlotte. Then I think he struggled in Orlando. These coaching things is just it's a stressful.
All right,
thing.
First thing I'll say is this, okay? As far as you talking about, Ime Udoka and Willie Green and these, I agree with the idea of we have no idea if those guys are going to work out. I have no clue. I don't have a clue if Darvin Ham is going to be the next big thing. I don't have a clue about Hardy or Lee or these guys who've been assistants. I don't have. If you think you know how they're going to be as a head coach, you're being naive. I don't even think those guys know how they're going to be as head coaches in the NBA. So it's the same thing with the NFL. We go through this all the time. The sexy coordinator. The guy is brought in. He doesn't work out. He's fired within 2 or 3 years. We have no idea about these assistants. I want to pay attention to first and foremost, the biggest name that jumps out at me, and I think the most polarizing name on this list for a lot of different reasons, is Mark Jackson. As you said, Mark Jackson, he's a guy who won with Golden State, but when Golden State went to Steve Kerr, Golden State won more than they won with Mark Jackson. Mm-hmm. When Mark Jackson was in Golden State, the offense, I think, was 12th or 13th in the NBA. Steve Kerr took over. They were like second the next year. So did Mark Jackson hit a ceiling with that talent? And, was Steve Kerr the next step in that process that was ultimately needed for that team to get to where it got to?
Yeah.
Are the Warriors a champion with Mark Jackson as the head coach? We don't know. But what I can tell you is they were with Steve Kerr.
Yeah, and not to get too deep into Warriors talk, but one of the big things that happened when Steve Kerr took over is David Lee gets hurt, and then Draymond Green is the starter and never comes out, and then the offense changes.
Yes.
So
a major driving force. So what? Was it Kerr or was it the serendipity of what happened in the injuries? Right?
Yeah. I mean, is Mark Jackson coming with Steph Curry and Draymond? Because bring Mark Jackson.
Last time I checked, he is not going to be.
Is he bringing Jeff Van Gundy? Mike Breen? Is who? Who's coming?
I don't know what Breen would do for us. He has great pipes.
So we're gonna focus on Mark Jackson for a second. Mark Jackson is a motivator.
Yes.
Everyone around says he's a master motivator, and all of the Warriors players seem to still love him. When you hear Steph, Draymond, Andre Iguodala talk about Mark Jackson, they talk about him in high reverence about how much they enjoyed playing for him and how well they got along with him. You know, whatever didn't work out sounded more like personality stuff with ownership.
Well, it's interesting because there have been a lot of things said, right? There have been things said about Steph Curry, and there was this story that Steph Curry went to Mark Jackson's church and they had some kind of healing. I don't even know how to describe it. A healing situation, and they put oil on Curry's ankle, and they did all sorts of stuff. And Curry, they asked Curry to thank the Lord, and he did some kind of like dance or something, and so there was a situation where Curry was kind of brought into Jackson's religious world, which again, I'm not passing any judgment on that. It is what it is, and Curry, by the way, is by all reports a religious guy himself. So I don't think Curry had an issue with it. He did think that it was a little weird. He has said that. But so there's that. There's the stories about how he made assistant coaches feel very uncomfortable. He had, one assistant coach park away from the facility as like some kind of punishment. Just a lot of weird, quirky things that inevitably when he was leaving, when it was time for him to leave and they showed him the door, a lot of people, again, reportedly, a lot of people in that facility were not fans of Mark Jackson anymore. Like he kind of wore out his welcome and he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So ultimately you've got to ask the question, is that the guy you want to bring into this kind of situation? Do you want a guy who his first stop as a head coach, he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way? Is that what you want to invite? The other thing I wonder about, Lance, with, Mark Jackson specifically, he has not been on an NBA bench for 8 or 9 years. Now, that doesn't mean he can't coach the game anymore, but he hasn't been around 8 or 9 years. He's been watching. He's been a broadcaster, but he did not go back and be an assistant coach. He did not go back and do things that, some guys that get fired, they stay in the game. Mm-hmm. Mark went to TV, which is his right. But I just feel better if I have somebody who has actually been on an NBA bench in like the last 8 or 9 years taking over. I would rather have somebody who's been in and out, night in, night out, dealing with the grind.
Yeah, that's understandable. But then also Steve Kerr was coming from TV or GMing when he went and got the Warriors job, and it all works out. That's the tough part about it. It's like, who knows how this stuff is gonna work? But it's like, in my opinion, pick somebody, and this is your job. You are the coach.
Right.
You're gonna be the coach for the next at least 3 or 4 years. So you can establish your traditions here and your thing here, and let's see where that works.
The other part of this is Monte McNair. Now, I did some legwork on this because I heard Dave this morning say that Monte is walking into the final year of his contract. I talked to some people. I could not get a straight answer. Some people said that it could be a 3-year deal. Some people said it could be a 4-year deal. Some people said that it could be a 3-year deal plus an option. So it's not really clear if Monte has a 4-year contract. If it's a 3-year deal or it's a 3 plus an option, that means that for all intents and purposes, your lame duck general manager is making this head coaching decision, which I do not like. If you're giving Monte, the keys here, and you're saying, okay, you can make the hire, and you're going to bring the next guy in for the future of this team with Domas and Fox, give that dude an extension then. Because what'll happen is, what if it doesn't work in year one? Does Monte get blown out? And then if you blow out Monte, who comes in to replace Monte? And now that coach that Monte hired this offseason is the next person. It's not their guy. So you run into that nonstop cycle of chaos that's happened here so many times the last decade plus.
Hey, Nick, welcome to Sacramento.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're making yourself at home and figuring out how things go around here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, welcome to our world.
I've been trying to figure it out, but I think I got a pretty good grasp.
No. This is what we've been dealing with.
And what happened to Kenny Atkinson? He was on the initial list. He's not on this list.
Probably something with his hair. He had to go do it. He had his hair. We talk about mafia hair.
Yes,
that's Kenny Atkinson.
He had to get his hair taken care of.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
We don't have the level of jail in Sacramento.
I have to guess here that Kenny said thanks but no thanks. That's my guess.
And maybe for some of the reasons that you pointed out.
Too bad too, because he was my guy.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, he worked with young talent in Brooklyn. He got the most out of those guys. He showed that he can develop some young players. He's an analytical guy, super smart, and he's been with Steve Kerr obviously for the last year or two in Golden State. He was near the top of my list as far as a guy that's been in the league and that I've seen coach and that I think could get a good amount. But again, ultimately it really depends on the mix and whether or not the guy can work with the talent that he has on this roster. What does Monty bring in? But I don't want Mark Jackson. I'm out. I'm out on Mark Jackson. I'm out. I'm out.
What about D'Antoni? That's an interesting name.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to him later. But not big on him either. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone lines 1-800-920-1140. You heard my thoughts.
Defense, who needs it?
About the head coaching opening for the Kings and who they're talking to. You've heard Lance's thoughts. You'll get Jason Anderson, of course, our friend from the Sacramento Bee. We'll get his thoughts on this head coaching search coming up in 90 seconds.